Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and a happy new year to all of you. 2020 is here and I'm going to start 2020 by playing one of the vehicles that I most enjoyed from last year, and that is the Tier 9 Chinese tank destroyer. It is the WZ-111 GFT. This vehicle basically looks like an ISU-152 that kind of ate all the pies, and any of you who absolutely loved the ISU-152 back in the day, back when it used to have a proper BL-10 gun, might be missing that. The ISU-152 just doesn't feel right, even with 260 alpha damage. It just needed that 286 to just feel like it was the real powerhouse gun. Now sure, I think the ISU-152 is in a great position with its health point buff, now I think is up to 1,200. But to have that at tier 8, it just doesn't really feel as special as this tank. Do you see how many hit points this vehicle has? Right there, 1,800 hit points, ladies and gents. Why does this vehicle get the same amount of hit points as some tier 9 heavy tanks? Seems to be a bit of a weird one in World of Tanks, right? The hit points, especially towards the lower tiers, apart from that for the heavies, just spikes right up. And then for the tank destroyers, it completely dwindles around tier 6, 7, and even 8. Your hit points might only go up from maybe 600 to 750 to possibly 1,000. While your alpha damage is increasing tremendously, often from kind of 390 to 560 to 750 in the case of some tanks. So it always feels a bit weird for me that suddenly at tier 9 it was like Wargaming thought, well, we better give all those tier 9 tank destroyers lots of health to try and deal with all the tier 10 tanks, even though they've got the guns, sometimes from the previous tier. But what makes this tank special, what makes this tank really special, is the fact that it gets a gun from a higher tier. This, as far as I'm aware, is the only tier 9 tank destroyer that actually packs a full tier 10 tank destroyer gun. 152mm main armament with 750 alpha damage on its standard shells, its premium shells, but more importantly, its high explosive shells. This is what really makes tier 10 tank destroyers. 90mm of pen and 1,100 alpha damage on your high explosive shells can be absolutely dominating. Alright, so an absolute disaster for me at the start of this battle, right? Looks like this one isn't going to go very well. I pushed it too far, I got spotted. It was not by the LT-432, it was probably by an ELC even 90 who's maybe sitting around this location with binoculars or alternatively made their way forwards. And wow, okay, yeah, LT-432, I saw that one coming. I know all about that little D4 area. I know all about poking those bushes. He did not expect that one. I roll for 938. Now that is actually a bingo. That's as high as you can possibly roll with a 750 alpha damage gun. And yeah, just up to instantly like that near 1,000. Although if I was rolling more normally, I could have rolled as low as like 550 or around about the 750 mark, right? Still, not a bad result. One thing I must admit is that I'm not actually purposefully choosing to load high explosive rounds here. It's because my gun got broken as far as I can remember, and I pressed my 4 key followed by my 3 key, which usually will fix the gun. So I'm actually loading high explosive rounds here by accident, but still they do 407 damage to the side of that IS-4. Will we hit the second one? No, we won't. But now this is where you want to have those high explosive rounds, right? Lightly armored tanks versus tier 9 tank destroyer. Oh dear, Mr. Udez, boys and girls, I think you can see where this is coming. Or going, I should say. Yeah, he's going back to the garage in a single shot. And that tank destroyer is only 1 tier lower than me. 1,000 damage. That's not a high roll. That would actually be, you'd have to significantly low roll your high explosive rounds on this tank to not one-shot a Udez. Alright, is the T-54 going to be our next victim? Oh, come on! That went low and left. Otherwise, we would have shut him down as well. But just like that, our fortune has completely changed. We went from losing over 2/3 of our hit points to a bit of a misplay. I did not expect the ELC even 90 to get such good spots on us. But now we're right back in it. 2,300 damage due to just the powerful ammunition that this tank gets. Really, this tier 9 tank destroyer is probably one of the more underrated tanks, or shall I say underplayed tanks. For some reason, nobody really wants to play the tier 10 Chinese tank destroyer. I can understand it. It's kind of like a boring, well, not a boring, it's kind of like a balanced Object 268 version 4. Has a big boy gun. It's got very decent frontal armor at that, but it's just so large, so cumbersome, that it's really tricky to be able to use it efficiently, to be able to hide the lower plate on the vehicle. Now, quite often in World of Tanks, there are tier 10 tanks that are just really not worth going for. And while I think that the tier 10 tank is still pretty good on this vehicle, it's not as good as the tier 9 is. Oh, come on, baby. Hopefully we can get this Scorpion G. fire it pretty much perfect there, but of course, with the accuracy of this tank, which is 0.4, definitely not a sniping tank destroyer, we miss the tier 8 turreted German tank destroyer, and he's still left in the game. So yes, there are tier 9 tanks that are just so darn good compared to their tier 10 counterparts. This thing doesn't really have the best damage per minute at 2,500, but when you're packing this kind of alpha and just that tier 10 penetration, look at the heat rounds on this tank, 395 millimeters. When you absolutely, utterly don't want to have to aim at a heavy tank and pretty much can go through the majority of their upper hull, even possibly many parts of their turrets, then yeah, the heat rounds on this thing are truly staggering. And so that's why I am absolutely in love with this tank. It's kind of like a tier 9 ISU 152. Let's be honest, the Object 704, while it's good, it just doesn't really feel like that much of a step up, apart from with regards to the vehicle's durability. I do like the angled hull armor. I do like the fact that the vehicle just packs a little bit more penetration, but it's most likely the hit points that truly makes that tank special. But this vehicle, kind of like a bit of a death slug getting around the battlefield. I've been truly enjoying it in 2019, and I think it might be something that I try to bring back a little bit. I put a fresh crew in this vehicle, I moved my crew up from tier 9 to tier 10 from this tank, and I'm just trying to train up a new one. I should give a real passing mention to the fact that crew training right now in World of Tanks is just so weird, because now you can dump credits into buying those crew training booklets, and I think you can get, is it 100 or is it 250,000? I think it's 250,000 experience for 2 million credits to your entire crew. When you think about it, even if you're running 3 times experience, crew experience boosters, you're running a premium account, you're running a premium tank which gets 100% extra crew training, yeah, those kind of books sort of make all of that redundant. Now it's just a case of, if you've got a load of credits that I guess you can get from having a premium account and running premium tanks, or even just playing frontline, or just when you've got towards the end of the game and you've got no tanks left to purchase like me, you can start to dump all of your extra credits into crew training and you can get some really monstrous crews. I'm definitely going to have to remember that moment, because I'm going to have to sum all of that up in a video where I've really got a question about this World of Tanks. Is it more pay to win now that you can kind of get everything for credits, or is it less pay to win? Not sure. We'll have to see. I'll have a good think about that over the next week, and maybe I'll try and sum it up. All right, 6,000 damage, 2 kills. What a cracking comeback for this vehicle. Having lost all of those hit points immediately to that misplay, I'm just showing you just what this tank does. Just the way that it slugs out against its opponents, the way that it holds the line, the way that it hits harder than pretty much all of the other vehicles. Well, it's 750, it doesn't hit harder, but shall I say it hits more consistently. It packs a big punch, and it just seems to work. This is what fat penetration at tier 9 is like. I haven't even really loaded that many gold rounds, or even have I fired a gold round in this game. I've been making good use of the armor piercing and the high explosive rounds. It truly is monstrous, and I love the shot selection on this tank. This is ammunition in World of Tanks done right, in my opinion, where your high explosive rounds, your heat rounds, and your armor piercing rounds are all better for a various different number of situations. And tactical use of the correct ammunition type can be just massively impactful. And that's what this tank does better than all of the other tier 9s. All of the other tier 9s, their high explosive rounds are more situational. Well, that's actually a bad way to describe it. Their rounds are worse, and so you can't use them in more situations. And so more often than not, it's just load AP rounds or load armor-piercing composite ridge rounds like on your T30. Or if you're playing on your Waffenträger auf Panzer IV, if you're using that main alpha damage gun, yeah, you're going to be loading heat more often than not, right? On this vehicle, it really does come down to which ammunition that you choose on the tank, and you've got to be prepared for that as to which ammunition you're going to do better with. Alright, so Object 257 charging down towards our SDB. We're going to fire around, and oh, that went really high and left, right? Yeah, as I said, this thing isn't a sniper, although we have been hitting a vast number of our shells. Alright, so from here on, I'm thinking this SDB-1, surely he's going to be able to finish off this guy. They're not going to actually need me to do the overkill of the sentry and put 395 damage into the back of the tier 9 heavy tank. Yeah. Now, why is this video called Deja Vu, you might be asking? Well, that's because, literally within 2 or 3 games, I found myself in a very similar situation. Yeah, that's right. Defending again on this map. Nice map rotation, even game mode rotation, Wargaming. One thing I must admit is this was actually the first game I played in this tank, and the one that you just saw was actually the second game. So when we look at the post-game stats, anyway, this game, I'm not going to be talking so much about the vehicle. I'm going to be talking primarily about why I chose to go into that position. And the reason why I mentioned that this was the first game that I played is because it's important from my position selection. In a tank like this, I always like to play it as if I'm playing against... Whoa, no, that was actually not quite enough lead there. Definitely going to have to zero in my lead against these tanks, right? So the reason why I highlight that this was actually the first game that I played is because you saw me actually thinking, should I go up towards the northeast? That's because when I play this vehicle, I like to sometimes take it against the heavy tanks because, let's be honest, it trades very well with them. Its upper hull armor is decent. It's got 200 millimeters of hull armor, and if you can angle it and hide your lower plate, it is incredibly thick. And this mantlet, yeah, that's a chunky old mantlet to have on any kind of tank. And so I like to go and turn myself into a bit of an assault heavy tank. That's really, remember, during my top 10 videos that I said that the Object 268 version 4 is just so dominant. It's incredibly dominant because the Object 268 version 4 effectively means that you've got another flexible heavy on your team, or you've got another heavy tank even on your team. Urgh, goodness gracious. Not the best marksmanship at the start of the game. I thought the Object 140 was going to continue to come down the slope. He didn't. He actually turned away, so we were unable to be able to lead the shot into him. So the Object 268 version 4 gets to play like a heavy tank. And I've had great success in this vehicle. I'm winning 70, nearly 75% of my games when I play this tank, solo, over 80 games or so. Now, of course, a lot of that could be down to luck, but a lot of it also is down to the fact that this tank is just so incredibly strong at tier 9, in my opinion, and I think that it has, if you play it in a certain style, that it can do a similar role to what the 268 version 4 does at tier 10. It's not going to be as fast. Its armor definitely isn't as OP, but it actually has kind of a better gun than the 268 version 4 does at tier 10, and considering that you're at tier 9, that can mean that you do a lot of good stuff in this vehicle. Alright, so this position that we found ourselves in is just so incredibly strong. It's absolutely 10 out of 10 dominant. From this position, you can manage to shoot on top of the hill, and you'll see that I'm actually hanging around away from the rocks. Now, you might think that if this was the game that I actually played second, that it was a little bit stupid, right? But you actually have to go that far to be able to shoot the Lorraine, to be able to get some shots on the Carnarvon and friends. And when you do that, you actually have to expose yourself. Okay, so we've been spotted by the Object 140, so immediately I need to angle my armor. You've got to be a bit careful in this tank, though, because if you over-angle it, this side plate becomes a bit of a weak point. Wow! That wasn't scripted. That was for real. So yeah, that's what you've got to watch out for with the Object 140. But what's the chances of them hitting that plate, or maybe angling your side armor better, or just making your frontal armor stronger? I don't know. In the end, you've got to try and make that decision for yourself. So big old return fire against the Object 140 there. Now it's time to fall back. Now I've got this 110 here. We're going to try and make the best use of this 110's vision. You know those kind of games where you're feeling, oh, here we go. Oh, 770 through the front of that IS-7. That was beautiful. You know those kind of games where you're a tier 8 tank destroyer and you're, a tier 8 heavy tank and you're in a tier 10 game like this one, like the 110 is, and your team just doesn't really seem to help you out. Can't believe that one bounced. Should have probably fired heat there, but we're loading armor piercing anyway. So I'm requesting fire at this bat chat. We want to try and land a shell on him. Now, finish the story. The 110. Don't you wish that you had allies who would be able to actually look after yourself? Oh, if only my rate of fire was just a little bit quicker, would have been able to tag him there. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Nice lead. That one went clean into the Lorraine. It's a tricky shot to hit that, where you're having to give lead where the person's also driving towards you and also down a slope. We shut the Lorraine down. Maybe we keep the 110 in it for a little bit longer. Maybe, just maybe, we can also shoot the Object 140 and we can try and keep the 110. Well, the 110's unfortunately down. And again, a pretty good shot, although I probably aimed that one a pixel or two to the right. Should have aimed that one a little bit more to the left. And right now, this is where you want to be in your tank destroyers, right? Do or die situation. A huge amount of enemy tanks YOLOing down the slope towards you, and you are in the mother of all fat guns for tier 9. Yes, this absolute death slug of a tank, the 111 GFT, is perfect for this situation. You got the hit points to weather the storm. You got that big boy alpha damage penetration to be able to slow down your opponents, and we're shutting them down one by one. Lorraine, and 2 shots on the Carnarvon, then another shot into the Object 140, but that artillery manages to shave off more hit points than I would have wanted to have lost there. Hopefully we're going to put our loader back in. We're going to get that load going again. And what was that kind of a shell from an artillery? Did he really land that on some kind of the weirdest pixel angle ever? That's a bizarre one. Okay, well, good shot, artillery. So I ping the map to let my EBR know where the artillery is, and good job, he's going to get him there. Now I fire a heat round at the T110E3, and my heat round will actually penetrate the top of that tank. That is not a weak point on the T110E3. It's only a weak point on the T124. However, when you've got 395mm of penetration, trust me, some parts which are actually not weak points for any other vehicles do become weak points for you. And that's why I might be able to get through the turret on top of the T123. Now he's stunned. Am I going to take a chance? No, I'm not. He reuses his med kit. It's actually something I've been doing a little bit more recently, as I've been trying to work within the stuns of artilleries to try and make plays myself. So I'm hoping that I can be able to shoot the T123's lower plate. Maybe we're going to shoot the top of his tank. No, it doesn't quite manage to pen. That is a very sturdy part of the E3 tank destroyer, and the reason why I prefer the E3 over the E4. The E4 just has the flexibility, but the E3 has that raw power. Alright, so this situation is absolutely screwed right now. We've got a Batchat and an E3 towards our west. We've got a T95 and a VK and a UDES who are going to be coming from the east. That's the last place where you want to be. You don't want to be stuck in a tank destroyer in this scenario. So I figure out I'm going to use the rock. You can see I'm actually using the rock there when I'm looking behind me to make sure I'm covering myself from the Batchat and from the T123. We're going to fire a heat round here against the VK101, and yeah, it just smushes its way through that armor. That's 395mm of penetration. And again, I look behind me to make sure, and you see that I'm using the line on the minimap to triple check that I'm not actually going to get caught out. So we check that the E3 is not going to spot us while we try and defend against the UDES over here. So we actually shoot at the UDES. He was aiming at us, but he wasn't aiming at us. He couldn't quite see us. I guess he was spotted, so he's a little bit worried. So what I'm going to do is keep an eye on the E3, see if he's not going to get a shot on me. Looks like he's aiming at me, but it's a little too late. And do you see how we managed to get ourselves out of a pincer maneuver? Now, I understand what the Leo was doing, was staying behind, but really, how was that ever going to work? Doesn't look like the Leo had considered that he was going to get flanked from the other side, and he was just thinking, tank's in front of me, got to stay put. No, what we had to do there is we had to get out of that position, to get out of the pincer, to now kind of go hull down against our opponents. And it's almost as if they're defending this map, even though they're trying to attack my cap circle, and I'm using this super powerful D4 location to actually now be able to defend against their advance towards my base. Weird, right? But that's the beauty of World of Tanks. If you can try and think ahead and get yourself into positions, you can turn it around on your opponents, and it doesn't matter if they're higher tier tank destroyers, you can take it to them. Alright, mention should be made to the reverse speed of this tank. 16 kilometers an hour. Definitely not bad. Able to get forwards almost, well, not quite as quick as the E3 can go forwards, but there's not that much difference in it. That's why we're able to get back. I'm hoping that the E3 lures his way down. I'm hoping that the EBR goes and assassinates the Batchat or manages to get up behind the T95. And then, maybe when we can get the E3 to turn around, we can manage to pressure them. Okay, so the battle siren sounds. We don't actually have to kill any of the enemy tanks. Remember, this is an assault game. We're defending against their advance. All we have to do is survive. Nevertheless, I still want to be able to see if I can take it to the enemy team. And our EBR does a fantastic job of assassinating the Batchat. Shout out to you, Melina Storentin. Fantastic play by you in your EBR, 5 kills. And this is just where I can work with the EBR. So you can see that I recommend that the EBR goes towards the south to get clean shots into the E3's rear. And this is where now the pincer has been turned on our opponents. This E3 looks very stubborn, doesn't want to turn around, still wants to face us. Well, mate, you're going to have to get out of wherever you are. You're going to reverse to the rock, you're going to try and shoot the EBR. And right now, all I have to do is just wait. Have to try and keep this E3 lit up, have to try and keep looking like I'm a threat so that he doesn't fully focus on the EBR. But he actually turns up. Now he commits back to us. I expect him to shoot the tank that's on low health. He can't kill me in a single shot unless he ammo racks me. Okay, mate. You die then. That's fine. You die. So is it actually the right play to kill me when he isn't going to be able... Well, not kill me. Is it the right thing for him to do the 700 damage to me? 750 damage, I guess, if he rolls average. Or should he have finished off the T4, 54? Well, in that situation, the better play would have been for him to finish off the T54, because the T54 is always going to kill him after he fires at me, right? All he has to do is advance to get his side GG, unless he maybe thought that maybe the T95 was going to be able to get a cross shot into him. I think more often than not, the E3 in that scenario is probably thinking about just doing some more damage, right? He decides he wants to deliver his final blow of the game to try and elevate his damage that little bit higher and do 750 to me. And right now I'm thinking that the T95 isn't going to be this far around the corner, and he was. That's so unfortunate, but I know that as long as my team aren't going to die, that we're going to be absolutely fine. And yeah, this is where you want to be in your EBR, right? And with 5 seconds left on the game, maybe I was a little bit greedy just trying to go for it there. Great result. And a shout out to this EBR. Melina Storentin, you did a fantastic job in this game. So the first game shown, but second game play was an ace tanker, and what? Where's my high caliber medal? 7,000? Oh, Look at that, the SDB1 pipped me by 16 damage. Shout out to you, Polar3. Fantastic game. Very unusual to see two 7,000 damage dealers inside a single game of World of Tanks. But looks like I just pipped him on experience, so I guess we'll call it a draw, right, mate? Well, not a draw when he gets the high caliber medal, I guess. So, WZ111, GFT, 74,000 credits profit with a premium account, although nothing really makes sense around this Christmas time when you've got festive cheer, right? And as for the second game that we played, it wasn't quite an ace tanker, but this time we got the high caliber for that 6,200 damage dealt. And a massive shout out to Malina Storentin for that fantastic play in the EBR, 1,400 base experience nearly. Definitely couldn't have done it without you. So what a way to kick off 2020 with a double helping of gameplay in one of my favorite tier 9 tank destroyers that I think is thoroughly underrated. As you can see, these games were within 30-40 minutes of each other, and I hope it showed not only what this tank is all about, but how to handle yourself in some of your lesser flexible tanks. And I particularly liked the final game as we managed to turn it around on the attackers. Anyway, ladies and gents, that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you did, give it a thumbs up. But if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments if you have any underrated tanks that you absolutely love playing, and why do you love playing them? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.